they talking real loud, spreading on lies, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. With my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Propaganda swirling, but it won't touch me. Only love around, that's how it's gonna be. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams collide, we hustle through the night, fire in our stride. Whispers in the dark can't dim my glow. With rhythm in my soul, I'm ready for the show. We break the chains, rewrite the rules in this concrete jungle where nobody's fools. Unity sings louder than the lies they scheme. In the heart of the struggle, we dare to dream. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track.
Another Queen Ahmadiyyah production.
Haze on the corner, they talking real loud, spreading on lies, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. With my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Propaganda swirling, but it won't touch me. Only love around, that's how it's gonna be. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams collide, we hustle through the night, fire in our stride. Whispers in the dark can't dim my glow. With rhythm in my soul, I'm ready for the show. We break the chains, rewrite the rules in this concrete jungle.
All right, hello everyone. Thanks for tuning back in once again to the original Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur show. I'm your host, Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur, and this is your daily vitamin. So as you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the channel. If you haven't done so already, be sure to click that notification bell and click the word all so you're notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live. Okay, so before we get into it, let's have a brief word from my sponsor, okay, at 12 Tribes.
Do not buy 12 Tribes on Earth hair growth oil and hair magic elixir unless you want super healthy, gorgeous hair that grows. They have a whole line of amazing hair growth products, including hair growth leave-in conditioner spray, hair growth shampoo, hair growth spray, and hair growth butter. I'm starting to sense a theme here. They include quality natural ingredients. They smell amazing, and you can see the results for yourself. So if you're looking for healthy hair growth for your natural or relaxed hair, try 12 Tribes on Earth today.
Okay, so don't forget you can purchase 12 Tribes hair oil at Etsy.com. Just look for Lisa Crafts. You can also find it at Walmart.com. Okay, with that all being said, let's see who's in here now. I'm losing my voice, guys, in case you noticed. Okay, my throat is a little sore. Okay, so bear with me. All right, hey, Bookhorse DC, Desmond's in the house, Elizabeth, all right. Nessie X is here. Okay, Deronda, Clarence, We the People, Leon, Elizabeth, all right, Darnicia. Let's get into it, Mel. All right, no more drama. All right, a Tea Lounge is here. Adrian. All right, so shout out. I see you, DJ Big Six. Shout out to everybody in the chat and everyone tuned into the Queen. I see you, Claudette, Anita Harrell, Khalid. All right, so All Hell Nah is in the house. Let's get those likes up, everybody. Let's get into it now. I'm a little late getting started. Sorry. Hey, Gwendolyn, Juju B. Shout out to everyone in the chat, everyone tuned into the Queen, and shout out to my moderators putting in work. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. We're going to be getting our updates from Inner City Press. Okay, so let's see what's going on here. Let's see what's going on and what we have missed. And also, for those of you that don't know, I'm going to be going live at 7 o'clock. We're going to be having a panel so we can talk about the trial and get everyone's views and perspectives on it. Okay, so with that all being said, in the U.S. versus Sean Combs now joint request that the sentencing hearing take place. Okay, this must be something else. Hold on. Let me see here. Okay, here we go. Now, this is from 14 minutes ago. And this letter is dated for today. Dear Judge Subramanian, the parties have met and conferred and have agreed to the following schedules for sentencing, post-verdict motions, and submission of offense conduct to the probation office. For sentencing, the parties propose the court's original date of October the 3rd, 2025. The defense proposes that the probation office provide the parties with a pre-sentence investigation report, also known as PSR, on or before August the 29th of 2025. That the defense objections to the PSR be filed on or before September the 5th of 2025. That the government objections to the PSR be filed on or before September the 12th of 2025. That the probation office disclose their final PSR on September the 18th of 2025, that the defense's sentencing memorandum be filed on or before September the 19th of 2025, and that the government's sentencing memorandum be filed on September the 26th of 2025. The government and the probation office do not object to this schedule. For post-verdict motions, the parties propose that the defense file any post-verdict motions on or before July the 30th of 2025, and that the government respond on or before August 20th of 2025. Finally, the government requests that it be permitted to submit its summary of offense conduct on or before July the 11th, 2025, and the defense does not object. We appreciate the court's consideration. Respectfully submitted, Mark Agnifilo. And for those of you who are still pronouncing this man's name, Agnifilo, please put some respect on his name and say it correctly. It's Agnifilo, okay? Now, that all being said, Mark Agnifilo says, Sean, is that you? Combs says, yes. Where are you? Agnifilo says, in my office. The deputy says, is the government on? Slavic says, yes. Deputy says, beyond the letter, anything? The answer is no. Deputy says, we'll get back in writing. Okay. So it looks like this really didn't last long, because that was just from 14 minutes ago. Yeah, that was just from, and then 12 minutes ago, it says it's over. Combs Agnifilo submitted one letter, then a second. The deputy said Judge Subramanian will get back in writing on 2 other cases. Okay, so I guess that basically his sentencing is now officially scheduled for October the 3rd. Okay, that's what it is. And remember, this was a virtual hearing. So it was over just like that, you guys. Now, October is still pretty early. But in the meantime, now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about this video where they were going in hard in the paint. Okay, TC Dan says, so he'll be in jail all that time. Yes, because the judge has denied him bail, basically because there was violence. Okay, he is, deemed as violent. And so, of course, Cassie and Deontay, his former assistant, who's Cassie's friend, they wrote letters suggesting that the judge keep him in jail until then. Okay, DJ Big Six says, wow, they just won't let him out quickly. Exactly. DJ The Truth says, damn, they not cutting him any slack. Okay, the government is mad, honey. All right, the government is mad. Now, with that all being said, listen, I want you all to hear this video. I'm going to put an overlay on the screen so I don't have any copyright issues. But we're going to go through some videos of people's reaction to the verdict, like Ray J and others. But also, I thought it was interesting that Pierce Morgan had an interview with Vlad from Vlad TV, as well as Tony Buzbee's nefarious self. And Vlad and Tony Buzbee were going in hard or in the paint. Michael Mabane says, bail denied only for black men. Exactly, because Michael Jeffries from Abercrombie and Fitch absolutely got bail. Okay? So that all being said, Jamal said Cassie was Whitney Houston. Okay, that's what I said, beloved. To be honest, I said their relationship reminded me of Bobby Brown and Whitney Houston. All right, just toxic. Now, with that all been said, let's get into it, honey. This is all a hot mess. I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to put up an overlay, as I said. Now, he also had Superhead, Corinne Steph. Hold on. I don't know why he had Superhead on there. Clearly, she was clout chasing as usual. I mean, I guess they came and dug her up out of retirement. Please pay attention. Okay, there we go. We're going to put an overlay on here. Hold on. And let me add a little background music just as a precaution.
Prostitution charges Diddy was just convicted of. I interviewed 3 of the male escorts. All 3 of them said the same thing. Cassie picked them, contacted them for free calls, enjoyed the experiences, and paid them. Meanwhile, she's sitting on $30 million and writing letters to the judge asking him not to give Diddy bail. So pretty clear what your view is of Cassie Ventura there. What do you think should happen to her?
I mean, personally, I think she should be charged with the same thing that Diddy was charged with. Ultimately, he was convicted of prostitution. She was involved in the prostitution. Every male escort that I talked to said that she was the one picking the actual male prostitutes. She would book them. She enjoyed every experience. She was sort of guiding the whole thing while they were together, and she was the one that actually paid them. Ultimately, this is a domestic violence case that's ballooned into a RICO and sex trafficking and so forth. What Diddy did to Cassie in that hallway was absolutely horrible, but that is not what the trial was about. It was about RICO. It was about sex trafficking, neither of which made sense in this particular trial. And if you want to actually convict him for prostitution, Cassie is just as liable for that same prostitution that Diddy got convicted of, but she was given immunity in the whole situation. So I just feel it's really just a messed up situation.
That's a completely ridiculous stance, because you know what the consequences of her, not booking those prostitutes? We saw it in that hallway in the hotel, in an international chain hotel that were happy to take $50,000 to wipe it off the face of the earth. Those are the consequences. If she hadn't done that, it is very likely that she would have been manhandled in that way, even in the street, and someone would have been able to wipe the footage of that. I appreciate the fact that she hold on.
Case, which has nothing to do with
I appreciate the fact that she
was not charged with domestic violence. You're talking about a totally different situation.
I guess the question, Vlad, I guess the question that Esther's posing there really is, did she go along so apparently consensually with all the freak-off stuff, with all these escorts, because she
admitted to that?
Well, hang on. My question is, did she go along with it in the apparently consensual way because she was in fear of retribution from Diddy in a way we saw with the beating?
No, I don't think so. At the end of the day, this was an artist that had one hit song 20-something years ago. She had the ability to leave at any point. She was signed to a label, but labels leave artists that don't react constantly. She could have went. She stayed because she wanted to be in that particular situation. Now, people are going to argue with me and so forth, but at the end of the day, she stayed because there was no one else that was offering her a record deal. There's no one else that was spending millions of dollars on her. There's no one else that was showering her with gifts. So she decided to stay. And ultimately, at the end of the day, when the money ran out, when she married a broke fitness trainer and had to go move back in with her parents, and the money completely ran out, then it's like, okay, let's sue Diddy and let's get $20 million out of him. That is my take on it. That's always been my take. That always will be my take.
Okay, Tony Buzbee, let me bring you in here. Just first off, what do we think is going to happen to Diddy here? What sentence are you anticipating?
I'm expecting 2 to 4 years, I would expect. I mean, he's not going to get 20 years, obviously. He's already has time served. There's going to be some mitigating factors. He doesn't have a prior record. However, there are some issues within the case that might be reasons for the judge to go a little bit higher than perhaps normal. But I would expect 2 to 4 years.
Stop buying courses. But first things first, let me build your store free today and then give you.
What is your feeling? You've obviously represented many Diddy victims in civil actions. You had over 100 people come to you with various allegations. What impact does this verdict have on the suits that you want to proceed with?
Zero. I mean, I was listening to Vlad there for a minute, and I'm sure that same kind of argument took place in the jury room. I mean, people have a hard time putting their head around a situation where somebody might consent one day and not consent the next. And there are people in this world that believe, well, you've consented once, so therefore you're consenting for life. That is not what the law says. And I can understand why there may have been people on that jury that had the same point of view. And I'm not criticizing, I'm just saying that there's a lot of psychological issues here that people really don't understand about trauma bonding and how somebody might feel compelled to do something that they really don't want to do. But even if they said no one time, that is not consent. And I think in this trial, and we didn't have the benefit, or at least.
Okay, Tony Buzbee needs to shut up because he is not credible at all. He's a liar who lies, in my opinion, and also an ambulance chaser. With that all being said, the bottom line is this, okay? TC Dan said that's true, but not everyone is a psychologist, sir. Thank you. For the people saying, oh, trauma bonding, Stockholm syndrome. She's never been diagnosed with any of that. And I'm sure she does have some trauma, specifically from the beatings. But here's the thing. The bottom line is, at the end of the day, Cassie was messing around with these men, supposedly when Diddy wasn't even there. Okay? When Diddy wasn't even there. Let's not act like Clayton Howard didn't come out and spill the tea on her. And let's not act like the Flasher and the Punisher didn't spill the tea on her. Okay, with that all being said, these people all have said that she was a willing participant. Okay, and Cassie said herself that she was jealous of Diddy's other women. So I think that was the main problem for her and Jane Doe. Okay, I think they both were mad because they didn't get the #1 spot. And basically, they were doing all that they could do, hoping to secure the spot, but never got it. Okay, now I'm not saying she didn't deserve a few dollars for her beatings or whatever, but let's just keep it real. If you listen to that video of what Clayton Howard said and what the other guy, the Flasher, said, and they are both telling the same story. Okay, and not to mention Daniel Phillips, who actually testified for the prosecution. And let's also not forget that when the jury had questions, they asked for them to send them Cassie's transcripts as well as Daniel Phillips's. You know why they wanted Daniel Phillips's transcripts, in my opinion? To just go back over them, because that man said on the stand that Cassie was setting this stuff up, and Cassie's the one who asked him to give her the golden shower, which is interesting because the prosecution said in their opening statements that in fact Diddy made these men give her the golden shower. And also Clayton Howard said that Cassie lied and said that Diddy was making her have relations when her monthly was on. And Clayton Howard said Cassie did that herself and did it to him. And he got mad and went off and cursed her out. And Diddy ended up giving him more money. Okay, just to get him to stop complaining about it. But that was all Cassie, according to Clayton Howard. Okay, who is a victim? Now, I find it interesting. Some people don't want to act like that man's a victim. He said Cassie gave him an STD. He said Cassie manipulated both him and Diddy. And I want you to pay attention, because you know why that's important? Because Kid Cudi said the same thing. That's why. Kid Cudi just said, instead of using the word manipulated, he said Cassie played him and Diddy. Okay, so Cassie's no angel as far as I'm concerned. And let's also not forget that she was broken, busted, her and her husband, living with her parents in Connecticut with all their children in October of 2023 and filed on Diddy in November. Okay, I'm not victim shaming. I'm just keeping it real. Okay, Pensacola said, welcome home, Royal Queen. Been watching while busy. Thank you, beloved. I appreciate your kind words, and it is great to be home. And thank you for your contribution to the channel. Peace, love, and blessings.
I didn't have the benefit of watching it day to day and seeing each witness and hearing how they said the things they said. All I was able to see was.
And see, that's the thing. If you didn't have the pleasure of watching it, that's what I'm not going to do, is argue with people who are not actually in the courtroom. Okay, if you are not actually there at the courthouse, you cannot get the full scope of the magnitude of the things that were said and transpired and everything that went on from just reading text and updates. Okay, that's why I went there myself, to see and hear for myself. So that's why I don't argue with people who are not actually there. Okay, because you don't even know what you're talking about as it pertains to some of the evidence and testimony that was in fact given. Okay, but let's continue.
Was the transcript that I would receive on a daily basis. Obviously, the jury thought that the RICO situation was complete baloney. They thought apparently that this was not a RICO situation. There was no conspiracy, and they were trying to put a round peg into a square hole or vice versa. I did think that, given the testimony that I saw, that there were instances where Cassie and Jane were forced to do things either through financial pressure or through extortion type pressure or through force, things that they did not want to do.
But the interesting thing on that, Tony, is that the jury clearly did not believe either woman when it came to any issue about consensuality. They just didn't believe any of it. I think pretty much across the board, it was clear they had not bought in to the suggestion that any of this was non-consensual.
No question. I mean, I think you're right. And you know, sometimes juries do things that we don't expect. You know, I go back to whether, you know, each instance that this happened, did he have consent each time? Then I see Vlad's point. There were times when it looked like that Cassie was involved in setting some of these
well,
events.
There's no question of that. I interviewed the Punisher, you know, the guy who gave evidence. He gave very powerful, eloquent evidence. And I've interviewed him several times. He's a very good talker, and he had no real kind of skin in the game. In fact, he was brought from the prosecution to give evidence, but actually ended up being a pretty powerful witness for the defense, it turned out, because what he said was everything was done through Cassie Ventura and seemed very consensual. Went on for over 2 years, you know, a dozen or so encounters in hotels where Diddy just sat in the corner saying nothing. She booked him, she paid him, she organized it. Everything was driven by her. She seemed to have a good time. Everyone was happy. I thought that was very powerful evidence, actually, for Diddy, because it seemed to contradict everything that they were trying to position it as, which was this was all coercion.
Today we are setting up this Chick-fil-A employee for anything she wants. You could pick any item you want. I'll go get it.
Let me offer this up. You know, the government settled in on using 2 alleged victims. They used Cassie and they used Jane. Early on, when this all started, we were contacted by the U.S. Attorney, and they asked us, can we speak to some of your clients? So we went to, and they told us, these are the ones we want to speak to. We made those people available. They talked to a couple of those people. But I think by that point, they had decided, their team had decided that they had what they needed. They had the goods, if you will, to proceed with Jane and with Cassie. I think that was a mistake. I will say, as I watched the trial, or at least learned about the trial daily as it went on, I thought the government was doing what they needed to do to get a conviction. Obviously, that wasn't the case. Obviously, they did not believe that they believed that Diddy had consent, and they didn't believe there was a conspiracy. And obviously, the transportation to commit prostitution, that was pretty cut and dried. And I think everybody, no matter which side you fall out on, believed that there would be a conviction there.
But there is a point, isn't there, that which Vlad made, I thought, pretty compellingly, that if you're going to convict Diddy and you don't believe that it was non-consensual and Cassie did all the booking, why is she not being charged? And could it be that the reason that she turned on Diddy was to preempt potentially some legal exposure herself?
Who knows? We'll never know that. They gave her immunity early on, and they that's the horse they rode with.
And why did they give her immunity? That's because she committed crimes too. And if they're saying that Diddy was trafficking her and Jane Doe, then that means that they were prostitutes, okay? Y'all do get that, right? So at the end of the day, everybody that got immunity, they got it because they committed crimes. So what crime did Cassie commit? I think we all know. And I told you all over a year ago that Cassie was an unindicted co-conspirator. Okay, enough said.
And we see what happened.
Well, I don't think it's that cut and dry. I think consent without fear of consequences is not, with fear of consequences, not actually consent. So if you were going against Cassie, for example, and you're going to try her, all she has to do is show.
Let me tell y'all something. They convinced me with it because as far as I'm concerned, if Cassie was my skin tone, y'all can best believe she'd have been sitting right next to Diddy. How much you want to bet? If Cassie was my skin tone, she'd have been sitting right next to Diddy. And if you want to really know why they didn't get the RICO conviction, let's talk about it. Here's why. First of all, Christina Coram, aka KK, who was Diddy's chief of staff, she wasn't indicted. Okay, they called her a co-conspirator, but she wasn't indicted, nor did she testify against Diddy. Okay. Now, why didn't she testify against Diddy? Well, because she wasn't going to flip off, apparently. So with that all being said, why didn't they indict her? Well, they didn't, because Christina Coram has the complexion for the protection. So they're not going to invite her or going to indict her after what they were accusing Diddy of. You think they want to charge this woman, okay, who doesn't look like me with the same thing they were charging Diddy with? Of course not. And so since they wouldn't indict her, they couldn't indict D-Rock. Okay, because how could they indict D-Rock but not Christina Coram? So that's why neither of those two who they called co-conspirators, that's why they were not indicted, okay? And that's why they weren't called to testify, because neither of them was likely willing to go against Diddy. Okay, I just want y'all to pay attention. That's why the jury likely didn't convict him on the RICO. First of all, the government didn't prove their case, and they also were likely thinking, wait a minute, who are the real criminal enterprise people here? Diddy, and then who else? Because the assistants going out picking up his stash of rugs with a D for him, that was just them doing their job and also doing something that was illegal, of course, but they didn't set out to do that. They didn't plan to do that. They didn't agree to do that when they got hired. That wasn't given to them as a part of their job description. That wasn't something that they thought they would be delegated to do. So there was absolutely no mens rea, which means a guilty mind. And if that isn't present, because that is what determines your intentions. And since they had no intentions of committing crimes, they just ended up doing it because, of course, they wanted their jobs, not knowing that their boss was a rug addict. Okay? So they were not a part of a criminal enterprise, you see? Okay, and if, like I said, there were a criminal enterprise, well, then Christina Coram and D-Rock should have been indicted as well, should have been sitting right beside Diddy, or the government should have gotten them to flip and testify against him, but they didn't do either of the two. Okay, so please pay attention.
That video and just say, look at what happens if I didn't do that. Now, I don't think it reached the threshold for the jury for RICO, which I completely understand. Like I said, a conspiracy that involves one is a thought. But this is why I say this is not a problem for the courts. It's a problem for culture and society. Cassie met P. Diddy when she was 17 years old. She signed a 10-album deal with...
Now, there she is lying. Do y'all hear this? She's saying that Cassie met Diddy when she was 17. That's not true. She was 19 and she was dating Ryan Leslie. And also, let's not forget, if she's saying that Cassie was 17 when she met Diddy, then she's calling Ryan Leslie a PDF file, is she not? Because he was dating Cassie when she met Diddy. And Cassie didn't have relations with Diddy, according to her own testimony, until her 21st birthday, when she made that fake flyer. Her and Diddy got together in cahoots and used it as a ruse to fool Ryan Leslie as if Cassie had to perform in Miami for her birthday, but really she was on a yacht having sex with Diddy. I mean, 17 is a whole lot different than 21. This lady needs to watch her mouth until she gets her facts straight. But let me continue.
P. Diddy by the age of like 20 or 21, which is virtually unheard of in this industry. I mean, I'm sorry, she wasn't Beethoven. She didn't have the kind of talent that would warrant that kind of record deal. She was clearly groomed. Now, amongst all of that, could you say she could have got up and left? Okay, arguably, yes.
She was with him 10 years.
Yes, but the thing is, he had
She was with him 10 years, and the Punisher was very clear.
Yes.
She did not give any impression to him of being anything but a very enthusiastic and willing participant. It's quite kinky stuff.
Look at what happened when she tried to break up with him and date what's his name, the rapper who had his car blown up. I mean, it's not that.
I never saw this lady in the main court or the overflow room or anywhere on the property or grounds the entirety of the time I was at the trial. Okay, lady, what are you talking about? She can't even remember the names of the people. It was Kid Cudi, and then she said, "Oh, he tried to terrorize her about Kid Cudi." Well, here's the thing. Who is the one that said that Diddy actually threatened to blow up Kid Cudi's car? Cassie said that. How do we know Cassie was even telling the truth? I'm just saying the jury was thinking all of these things, I guarantee you. There was no proof other than Cassie said so. And there was never any police report that proved that Diddy was the one who did it or had it done. So I don't even know why the prosecutors foolishly put the arson on the table in the first place. If they wanted a conviction, they should have gone with domestic violence. And all of the people who are mad, I want you all to pay attention. All the people who are mad because Diddy got off on the racketeering and the RICO, whatever, those people are simply mad because of the domestic violence, which he wasn't even charged for. I'm going to show you a video of Tisa Tales right after this, where she's going in so hard in the paint and talking so crazy and saying what the jury did and didn't do. But she sounds like a complete idiot, which she is, by the way, because at the end of the day, all she's talking about is the domestic violence. Girl, he was not even charged with that. Don't be mad at him. Be mad at the prosecution.
And dry. This, I feel like.
Esther, we have lots of chats through the Me Too era and stuff, and obviously one of the things people are saying about this is that, in a way, it signals the beginning of the end of that Me Too movement, because for a long time, everyone was encouraged to believe women accusers. The moment they made allegations, they had to be believed. That was always, to me, a very dangerous proposition. It should always be they should be taken seriously. The allegations should be investigated properly, and then decisions should be made about whether there had been a crime. Very dangerous to believe accusers before you actually know whether they're telling the truth. But here we've got a situation, I think, where if he'd been in this case 3-4 years ago, he would have gone down.
I don't think.
I think the jury, I suspect, has moved with the times.
I think.
The lady who keeps running her mouth and doesn't know what she's talking about, she's a very pretty lady. In fact, she reminds me of Lovely T. She looks a lot like Lovely T, in my opinion. Now, with that all being said, Miss Asha says, Ryan is a pedo. He dated her for 3 years. Where was Cassie's mother? Ryan was at least 10 years older than her. Actually, he was 8 years older, almost 10. But at the end of the day, he's not that, because Cassie was 18 years old when she started dating him. If my calculation is correct, she dated him for 3 years, and then she started cheating on him with Diddy at the age of 21. So she was about 18. She was not a minor. She was a grown woman. Even though 18 is young, he was about 8 years younger or older than her. Okay. And then she got up there on the stand and lied and said that Diddy was her first adult relationship, when that's not true. You were dating Ryan Leslie before Diddy. And then when they mentioned that to her on the stand during cross-examination, she simply tried to discount it by saying, oh, that wasn't that long. 3 years, that's long enough. Okay. That's long enough. And why isn't anybody going in on Cassie for, doing what she did to Clayton Howard? He's a victim. So y'all don't want to see him as a victim because he's a male. And that's exactly what he said. That man is a victim as well. So nobody wants to talk about that. Victimhood doesn't only go to women. There are men who are victims as well. And Clayton Howard is absolutely a victim as far as I'm concerned.
The whole Me Too issue was a separate kind of beast.
How old is this girl? This girl is 45. So yes.
P. Diddy and the environment that he exists in, the hip hop industry, is a completely different kind of sleaze. And also, it was very cut and dry from that
video. Is it though? Is it any different to Harvey Weinstein, who claimed that a lot of what his stuff was transactional? I mean, he was convicted of rape and sexual abuse and so on. So obviously, again, juries didn't agree. But he painted a picture of a lot of kind of transactional relationships with people, right, where he believed this was all part of the sort of casting couch deal. That again has been, that's dinosaur stuff and was outrageous and wrong and everything else, and it turned out to be criminal as well. But I don't think there's much difference in the attitude.
I want you all to pay attention to how annoyed Vlad is looking while Pierce is talking. He's or maybe he's annoyed with a lady. But either way, you can clearly see he is so annoyed. Okay, look how he's looking. And then Jamal says, so you people think orgies are new? Your nieces and aunts are in movies. Not their nieces and aunts. Y'all need to stop. And then Nurse Bay said, seems like she was already groomed. She liked older. Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. She was already dating somebody almost a decade older than her. How was she groomed? Like, please make it all make sense.
There is a difference. I think hip hop has always come under fire for being quite sleazy. I mean, you can't listen to a hip hop track from 20 years ago without hearing the N-word or bitch. It's always been quite sleazy. They've always been quite...
So I'm sorry, lady, you need to sit down somewhere. You talk about hip hop is sleazy, but rock and roll isn't. Rock and roll isn't and has never been sleazy, ma'am. Okay, they've never indulged in the same things in rock and roll, ma'am. Lady, please sit down somewhere, because yes, they absolutely have. She must not know about Elvis, okay, and Jerry Lee Lewis, honey, who married Jerry Lee Lewis, 23 years old, married his cousin, 13, his own cousin, and Elvis married Priscilla Presley, moved her into the Graceland mansion or the Graceland estate when she was 14 and he was in his 20s. Girl, what are you talking about, hip hop? Let's talk about rock and roll first, okay? But funny though, thing is, they used the Mann Act against Chuck Berry, who was a rock and roll star and who is the godfather of rock and roll, as far as I'm concerned, him and Little Richard, not Elvis, okay? But at the end of the day, Elvis and Jerry Lee Lewis never got indicted for the Mann Act. Please pay attention. There was also a long-standing rumor, which I believe to be true, that Elvis impregnated a 15-year-old and forced her to get rid of it. Okay, so lady, please know what you're talking about before you try to go in on black folk talking about hip-hop. Make it all make sense. I'm just spinning the facts. Don't get mad at me.
Actually vocal about the fact that they treat women like pieces of meat, and the women a lot of the time are happy to be treated that way because they get a lot from it.
Okay, so that's interesting, isn't it, Vlad? Because that is part of that hip hop culture. There's no doubt. A lot of women have embraced that kind of, very misogynist language, the lyrics, and so on and so on. Is your feeling about what happened here with Cassie Ventura and Diddy that she was, notwithstanding the violence which would erupt more than once, we know there were other occasions when he was violent to her, that she enjoyed her life around this superstar rapper, notwithstanding that?
She did enjoy her life around the rapper. Do you all think that Cassie or Jane Doe or anybody else that was dating Diddy for his money, do you all think they would have been doing all of this stuff, getting the butt beatings and all of that, and being so quick to do freak offs if they were dating somebody who worked at Walmart or McDonald's or FedEx or UPS? Do y'all think they would have put up with the stuff? No. Of course, they likely wouldn't have, but they did so because they were with Diddy, who was a whole billionaire and had all that money, and they chose their beds. And my mother always taught us that when you lie down with dogs, you wake up with fleas. Okay, that's just the truth of the matter. Now, Talk to Me, I Talk Back says, at the original Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur show, how we don't know if Cassie blew up the car, if it was a female fingerprint on the scene. How do you know? That's a whole nother level of intrigue, which I never bothered to think about. Wouldn't that be a plot twist if she actually had? I don't think she did, beloved, but that's a good one. Okay, Diddy's defense team should have entered that in just to give the jury something to think about. Okay, because that's a good one.
I understand the question. Can you explain
that she accepted the violence and was prepared to stay in the relationship because she enjoyed everything else?
I think there was a very violent relationship. I think it was a drug-fueled relationship. I think there was lots of money and fame and jet-setting involved. At the end of the day, I think what happened to her was horrible. I think that tape showed just how bad the domestic violence was. But at the end of the day, this is not what the trial was about. The trial was about RICO. The trial was about sex trafficking. The trial was about prostitution. In fact, the only reason Diddy got convicted was because it was interstate commerce. All the other male escorts that I've talked to, like, for example, I talked to Don the dealer, who also had multiple sessions with Cassie. She said she was loving it. She was into it. She was setting the direction. At the end of the day, you could stay in a bad relationship, but you decide to stay in that bad relationship. This is really about the domestic violence, but the domestic violence goes back past the statute of limitations. So if you think about it, in this whole case, all the escorts I talked to were not sent to a different state or a different country. They were all local. Like Don the dealer was in Miami. Punisher was in New York.
I used to do excessive cardio 6 times a week, and I swapped it for weight training 3 times a week and added 30 minutes of.
If all these guys didn't travel across state lines, there would be no case at all. None whatsoever.
Yeah.
And with Tony Buzbee, at the end of the day, like he said, that the feds talked to multiple people that he's representing that were suing, but they decided not to use any of them, which makes me think that there wasn't any real credible, real evidence that they actually did anything wrong in the whole situation. Therefore, there's only 2 people that were actually used. The only person that was actually that filed a lawsuit that was used in this case was Cassie. And there's over 100 lawsuits. So what does that say? That says the lawsuits are all nonsense.
Wrong. I listened to you. And some of
Hold on, honey, because Buzbee's about to go in on Vlad in just a hot second. Linda says, I believe they evidently became addicted to the rugs and were controlled to the mistreatment. Diddy is trash. Well, I absolutely agree with you, beloved. I absolutely agree. And yes, it was a very toxic and volatile relationship. And they seem like two people who were just addicts get into all sorts of vicious, toxic behavior. I absolutely agree. Okay. Jamal says, remember the folks who twerk on cars, Thundercats killing their own mothers? Queen, it's wild out here. What does that have to do with it, Jamal? You need to stop. Okay. Marie Rose said, Cassie never filed one police report in 10 years. Now she's afraid. Make it make sense. Okay. If she was so scared of Diddy, she wouldn't have been cheating on him with people that he introduced her to, like Kid Cudi and Michael B. Jordan and the trainer that she married, Alex, whatever his last name is, fine. Okay, I find it all interesting. Now, Adrian says, Queen, I wouldn't be surprised if Cassie was the one who extorted her parents. Well, you know, when I was making the argument that Diddy absolutely did extort Cassie's mom, even though he sent the money back, that's still extortion in my book. Well, someone did tell me, they said, well, Cassie's the one who sent the email. How do you know Cassie didn't do it? Honey, it's all a hot mess.
Client was used in this case.
Let's be clear about something.
Which of your clients was used in this case?
Hey, listen very carefully. If the alleged assault happened in LA, there was nobody flown in, there was nobody coerced and trafficked across state lines, they wouldn't use the client, obviously. These cases that we have filed in New York are filed under a New York statute for sexual assault and sexual abuse. That's completely different than transportation for prostitution or for sexual trafficking, and certainly has nothing to do with RICO. So you just made this grand conclusion that, the U.S. attorney talked to a few of these folks and decided they had no credibility. You are flat out wrong in that respect. Because
Tony Buzbee, please sit down somewhere. You are flat out wrong about Jay-Z, and that's why he's suing your arse for extortion and defamation. So sit down somewhere trying to go in on somebody, honey. I find it all so interesting. And I don't even like Vlad, but at the end of the day, Tony Buzbee, I don't like you either. Okay, Reggie says, that's what I'm saying. Cassie is the same side of a two-sided coin. All right, this is all a hot mess. They are going in today. I'm loving it. Okay, then Kane says, Cassie had 5 boyfriends while with Puff. Now she's afraid. Not 5. Oh, let's continue.
None of them were used. None of them were used. How am I wrong if none of them were used?
Decided is that there was nothing that happened across state lines, and there was no sexual trafficking, which is what the case was all about. So it has nothing to do with whether these people were credible or not. Their case is a civil case alleging state law claims of assault after being drugged. That was not the case that was brought by the U.S. attorney. And frankly, that's not a case that could be brought by the U.S. attorney, and which is the point
your own client accused Jay-Z and Diddy of raping her when she was 13, and we all saw it was all nonsense. It was absolutely false. It was absolutely false. She said Good Charlotte was there. They weren't there. She was 13 years old. Her own father said it was all nonsense. Jay-Z sued you over that. Come on. Like, you have a long history, not credible
give you a little
people.
bit of information.
A long history.
Make all these broad.
A long history.
You don't even know what you're talking about.
Have you won a single lawsuit with any of these people you've represented? A single lawsuit.
Literally 30 days ago for $640 million, pal. So don't be telling me about winning lawsuits. I've won more lawsuits than any lawyer in the United States. So I don't hear
with Jay-Z. How many lawsuits have you won against Diddy and Jay-Z? How many lawsuits have you won against Diddy and Jay-Z?
None have went to trial yet, knucklehead. Think about it.
Not knucklehead.
Wait and see.
You won nothing.
Okay, let me just jump. All right, look. The reality is we're going to find out, right? We're going to find out, Vlad. We're going to find out, Vlad, whether any of these civil cases do end up.
None of them will be won. Maybe one or two will be settled because of their headaches.
Okay,
there are over 100 people.
The one thing I do find very distasteful is there are reports that Diddy got a standing ovation in prison when he returned from this verdict because
people like Vlad.
Because his lawyer said that they love the idea of him beating the feds. And when you watch that video, when you watch the video of him beating up Cassie Ventura, the idea that guy becomes any kind of hero, I think, would stick in all our gullet. Can we agree on that?
He's not exactly an esteemed company. He's in a prison. Yeah.
But he shouldn't be treated as a hero.
Of course not.
Well, Diddy is definitely no hero as far as I'm concerned. I still don't like Diddy. But what I do like is when the racist feds, which in this case was a six-pack of Karens, as far as I'm concerned, at the end of the day, I feel like Maureen Comey is racist. That's what I got from her. That's the vibe I got. That's my opinion. And at the end of the day, I thought what they were doing was absolutely racist. Okay, where's those same charges against Mike Jeffries? I have several questions, okay? I have several questions. With that all being said, Jamal says, Too Short told us about females like Cassie. Okay. Pink Envy said, okay, Vlad, read them. Y'all are something else. Cartier Costin said, you look beautiful, queen. Thank you, beloved. I appreciate your kind words. This is all a hot mess. Reggie said, I love it when they fight amongst themselves. That's exactly what they're doing. And this lady, where is she? Sierra said, whoa, knucklehead. That's exactly what he called him, didn't he? This lady, I don't know who she is or where she is from. I have several questions. Mel said, Vlad trying to act like he's the man with a Fendi shirt on. Okay. Oh, so nefarious. Okay, so anyway, with that all being said, let's let this go ahead and conclude because I'm ready to get into this next video because I found it so hilarious. All right, we're going to get
I mean, some of the comments you've been reading online, I do think the prosecution failed Cassie in a way, because now we're having a debate about, you know, her motivations. Was she actually just, you know, in on all of this and just trying to
but
get
you know
money?
what, Esther, when I interviewed the Punisher, I really did change my view about this whole case.
But she was 9 months pregnant, testifying about the most grotesque thing.
I know.
Okay, what does her being 9 months pregnant have to do about her testifying? She did all this stuff before she was pregnant, lady. Doesn't have anything to do with it. And she was very much so a part of it. Let us not act like Cassie's so damn innocent. She sat up there and threatened Jonathan Oddie. She should have been in a chair next to Diddy as far as I'm concerned. Okay, but instead she was an unindicted co-conspirator turned witness. Okay, after hearing Clayton Howard's conversation and Flasher and the Punisher, Sheree Hayes, well, at the end of the day, I think it's clear to see here. Okay, and then we have two men basically saying that Cassie was manipulating them and Diddy, that she was in complete control and charge. Well, I'm sorry, that's not too far-fetched for me to believe. And at the end of the day, let us also not forget those text messages that we read. Okay, let's not forget that. So I'm sorry. And then let's not forget how she threatened Jonathan Oddie's life when she found out he'd recorded one of the freak-off sessions, talking about she would have him murdered and chopped into pieces. First, she said she would kill him herself. And then she said, well, I won't do it. I'll get somebody else to do it. You all remember that. I played you all the audio. Funny that certain people who try to paint narratives and told lies throughout this trial that favored the prosecution never bothered to play that video. Okay, that's what they didn't do. Okay, but let's continue.
I know, but she also had taken a massive payout before.
Which she deserved. She deserved it.
Okay, but according to the Punisher, over 2 years, it was all driven by her, all consensual, and she was completely happy. And when he said that under oath, and then repeated it all to me, and I got to be honest with you, I slightly changed my view about the whole case based on his testimony. I thought that if that was indicative of what was really going on, then how much of a victim was she? She was a victim of domestic violence, but as Vlad said, that was not what Diddy was on trial for. Anyway, look, it's a fascinating case. I've got to leave it there.
And she keeps on saying, and she was groomed. She was not groomed, lady. She was a grown woman who knew what she was doing, and she made her own choices. Okay, sadly for her, she made bad choices, but she made her choices nonetheless. Okay, so that lady can miss me with it, honey. It is what it is. Okay, at the end of the day, if Cassie was her skin tone with her foolish self, nobody would be showing her any sympathy. I guarantee you that. Because we all know that Cassie has something called pretty privilege. Okay, and when people look like Cassie, and a lot of times people do not want to hold them accountable. That's just the truth of the matter. Okay, that's just the truth of the matter. All right, and the same thing goes for Tisa Tells. While these people don't want to hold her accountable for her lies that she's repeatedly told, okay, they don't want to hold her accountable. They'll sit there and go in on those of us who called her out on it and act like we're supposed to have just sat there and not said anything and allowed her to say whatever she wanted to say and she didn't get any consequences. Well, you know, she just might be getting sued. Okay, she just might be getting sued for the lies that she told on Nancy Grace. Okay, saying that people threatened to kill her and were going to do her worse than Diddy did Cassie. Nobody said any of that to her. And you all know who she was talking about. She was definitely talking about me and Ratchet, because she literally repeated the words that Ratchet said. They were yelling, "You need to apologize to Diddy." Ratchet did tell her that she needed to apologize to Diddy. Okay, and if she thinks that she can't get sued because she didn't say anybody's name specifically, well, that's not true. You can absolutely be sued whether you said somebody's name or not. You see, if you said enough information to make a reasonable person think that this is the person you're talking about, and which by the video that I recorded and Ratchet recorded and other people recorded, we already know exactly who she was talking about, and it was us, okay? So with that all being said, she absolutely can be sued, and if you don't believe that, believe this. There are some examples of it, and matter of fact, if you think about the Amber Heard versus Johnny Depp case, Johnny Depp ended up suing, I want to say it was the Washington Post, but don't quote me on that, but he sued a publication who published lies that Amber Heard told, okay? He sued them for defamation and won. Okay, so with that all being said, please pay attention. Yeah, she might be getting hit with a lawsuit or two. Okay, and I've heard other rumblings about her possibly being sued. But hold on, let's listen to this because I found this also interesting. This is a video that Ratchet did last night. I'm going to put up an overlay because he shows Nancy Grace's video on here. And I don't want any copyright strikes or whatever. So let me put something up here. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Thank you in advance.
Because she wouldn't apologize to Diddy. These motherfuckers be lying. Look at this. Nancy Grace reporter threatened because she wouldn't apologize to Diddy.
So Nancy Grace is further lying and spreading and pushing a false narrative. Now she can be sued too, because not only is she perpetuating the lies that Tisa told, she allowed Tisa on her platform, like I told you all yesterday. Okay, so both of them can be sued. I just want you all to pay attention. And Tisa's a reporter now? Yeah, okay. But with that all being said, let's continue.
I know you fucking lying. So Nancy Grace is in on this. You are in on this. Yeah, you are in on this. And you could even tell by that's Asian descent. I know no shade to nobody, but you could tell, bro, like I don't make nothing up, bro. That ain't us, bro. You not like us. Tisa ruining her own career. She trying to be on CNN. They said the tangled web of lies they tell. She just freestyle stuff. Yeah, she just up there freestyling at this point. Nancy Grace then went on her damn channel and said, Nancy Grace reporter. Since when did you become a Nancy Grace reporter? First of all, let's start right there. When did she become a Nancy Grace reporter? The lies Tisa tells is insane. Man, I'm glad people starting to wake up and see she's nothing but a liar.
Miss Sheila said, I believe she writes Tisa scripts. Tisa doesn't even enunciate her words. Okay, correct.
Look at this. Tisa can't articulate and comprehend. Now she honestly can't. She can't articulate a sentence if it saved her damn. If it was gonna slap her in her damn whoopie whoop. Nancy gonna use Tisa and throw her away. When she was talking about the queen and her family, she got off. Look, this is the same woman who said Jonathan Adi was unalived and she had a death date for Jonathan Adi. So Sean G exposed her big time, as he should have. She said Jonathan Adi was not alive. And did anybody else hear that, or am I making that up? She said Jonathan Adi was unalived, and she also had a death date for Jonathan Adi. What in the hell is we talking about? Now who Tisa working with, we need to find out who Tisa is working for. I am confused on whatever that meant. True King, no, you're not. She said that. Exactly, Chelsea. I was going to say Clarissa. What the hell going on with me? Sidebar. Salute to Sean. It says she looks like she is on a substance. Yeah, it's called Coke Zero. Is she bipolar? What is? No, she said Jonathan Adi was unalived, and she also had a death date for Jonathan Adi. Now, listen to what Nancy clipped and put on her channel.
Travesty It was an all-out circus. Everybody, including myself, are running to safety.
Everybody, including herself, were running to safety, and she sat there with this damn this goofy ass smirk on her face, lying.
Got a question for you.
Did y'all see the look on her face sitting there looking so forlorn, honey? I absolutely cannot with Miss Tisa, honey. Girl, you need to sit down. She is too cute to be lying so much. She doesn't even have to tell these lies. I don't even know why she does it. I guess she just loves to lie. But hey, pathological liars they can't help themselves, I guess. But her subscribers think that everybody's hating on her, y'all. Please pay attention.
Tisa tells, and everyone's going to want to know this.
Everyone's going to want to know this. Watch the setup. They set this up. I got a question for you, Tisa Tales. I got a question for you, Tisa Tales. And everyone wants to know this. I got a question for you, Tisa Tales. And everyone wants to know this. Everyone wants to know. I want to know, they want to know, everyone wants to know, Tisa Tales. You're going to tell us. Tisa's going to tell us. Tisa, you going to tell us, right, girl? You going to tell us, girl? You going to do it? Bet your bottom fucking dollar you're going to do it. You know it's good for you.
Chris Eccles says, and y'all behaved ugly. Yes, we did, beloved. I'll give you that. No lies detected, beloved. I agree with you. I did behave ugly, but I addressed that yesterday. And here's the thing. But since I behaved ugly, you don't think Tisa did when she called him a broke-ass ninja with the 2 G's? You don't think she did when she told the other man from the North Carolina beat that Diddy still ain't gonna let him suck his D? I mean, that language is absolutely vulgar. You don't think that was behaving ugly? How about before we came outside to the courtyard, when we were screaming at her about her lies, how about her walking up on Ratchet, confronting him near the elevators and talking trash and calling him a broke-ass ninja and a janitor and saying he was beneath her? You don't think that was acting bad, though, do you? Yeah, I bet you don't think that was behaving ugly. You see how ignorant her subscribers are, y'all? I want y'all to pay attention. This is exactly what I told you all about yesterday. Okay, they will sit there and justify all of Tisa's bullshit, go in on us for responding to it, and act like she did nothing wrong. And then when we talk about her lies, they'll simply say, well, what did she lie about? When they know damn well what she lied about. All they have to do if they don't is go get the transcripts. And here's another thing. Do you all know that she did a video the other day lying, saying the transcripts cost $1,500 to $2,000, but at the beginning of the trial she said herself she was going to buy them and they were $500 or $600. Now all of a sudden they're $2,000. You know why she's jacking up the price and lying? Because she doesn't want any of her subscribers to purchase those transcripts so they can read them and see that she was lying all along. Okay, please pay attention. And then she also said she was talking about how some of us got the transcripts from Diddy's publicist. Well, we didn't have to pay for them. They were given to us for free. And as I told you all yesterday, Megan Cuniff, the reporter, is the one who told me that I could get them from her because she was giving them to anybody who asked. But Tisa tried to make it seem as though she was giving them to people who were working for Diddy's team. The only reason she made that bullshit up is because I said that I believe she was being paid by the prosecution. And I absolutely still believe, because how otherwise could she have possibly had armed security in the courthouse that escorted her out, put her behind a barricade? And I already showed you all the receipts on yesterday. And if you missed that video, please go back and watch. Okay, Miss Chris Eccles. And if you don't like what the queen is cooking, you can exit stage left and run your little old stupid self right back over there to Tisa's channel. Okay, where you can listen to more lies and continue to be delusional and live in a fallacy, because that's what you're doing. Okay, beloved? With that all being said, on to the next. Okay, OG Patrice said, has any of Tisa's subs called her out on her BS? Yes. Some of them were actually in my chat on yesterday, and they said they unsubbed from her. Okay, there were a few that were going in like this Chris Eccles fool, but there were some who said they were going to quit following her because they knew she was lying. And another thing is, you're going to see a video of one of them who's got a YouTube channel who now says that he doesn't support her anymore because what she's doing is rage baiting. R-A-G-E, not race baiting, but rage baiting. I'm going to play that clip on the same video. Okay, but please keep listening because it's getting good.
Be a good girl. Tell him what he did. Come on. Tell him what he did. Be a good girl. Come on, Tisa. Come on, Tisa. You can do it, girl. You can do it, girl. You can do it, girl.
You're in a car right now. You had to leave the courthouse. Why?
I had to leave the courthouse because Diddy's supporters were out of control. The first time I ran and did my live.
Here's the thing. Yes, Chris Eccles, you can have your opinion. And here's the thing. I don't, have a problem with contrary views and opinions. I've already said that a myriad of times. But when you come on here trying to say that we behaved ugly, well, I agree with you. We absolutely did. Shouldn't have done it. I usually don't behave that way, but I got caught up in the moment. Quite frankly, I got triggered when she called him a broke arse ninja. Okay, at the end of the day, because we already know she doesn't like black men. Okay, that's number one. But for number two, another thing that triggered me with you is that you want to call us out on our behavior, but you're not saying anything about Tisa's. Okay, so it's not just that your opinion stinks, because I don't really care if you have a different opinion, but it's the fact that you're not calling her out. So many of you will not call her out ever, and you listen to this video right here, and you know damn well she's lying. Nobody threatened to kill her. She was talking about me and Ratchet. We did not threaten her at all. We simply asked her why she lied. And also when she told Gerald from the North Carolina beat that Diddy won't let him steal, ain't gonna let him suck his D, she said all of those vulgarities to him simply because he asked her why she lied. That's all he said. Nobody said anything to her as bad as what she said to us. And then she called me dusty, and then she called me male identifying. And she's sitting here telling these narratives and saying that we're threatening her. Now people have threatened us. Now people have threatened us and don't want to follow us, some people. So she's clearly making us lose money and subscribers. With that all being said, you don't think she should be sued? Well, I think she absolutely should. Okay? Please pay attention. But keep on talking. I'm going to let you cook.
This is cap.
Skip the line and get right to your destination. That's why you go with Hertz.
How to tackle $40,000 in credit card debt in 2025. Every month, I barely scraped by.
Of course, I had 2 armed security guys. Everyone told me, the people in the courthouse was like, make sure you have security. There's a lot of weird stuff going on.
Again, she said the courthouse told her that. The courthouse told her that to get security. But you said your boyfriend or whoever hired them for you. More lies.
It wasn't just me, but I'll tell you what I experienced. Diddy supporters surrounding me, threatening me, saying that they were going to hurt me. It was a serious situation. It got so bad, and there was so much chaos and violence that they.
Chris Eccles, Reggie responded to your comment and he said, you made a statement without receipts. You didn't even know what Tisa has done and said. Exactly. And that's the thing. If you were not at the courthouse to see what actually went on, please don't think that the video footage that you saw was the entirety of it, because there is a myriad of people that actually saw what happened. Why do you think no other YouTubers are defending her behavior? Okay, nobody that was there, at least. Now, there may be some YouTubers who weren't there, who like follow her or whatever, but the YouTubers who were there, boots on the ground, you can't find one of them who's defended her. That's what you can't find. Okay, and why do you think that is? Is it because we're lying and we're hating on her? Or is it because she's just a liar who lies and has been lying all along?
Actually had to lock the courtroom down and force the Diddy supporters across the street. It was something myself, the news media, mainstream media, new media have never seen in their lives. The level, and again, the jurors, I hope to God they know how to sleep at night. Because
I hope the jury knows how to sleep at night. That's a good girl. Get him, Tisa. Tell him what they did to you, Tisa. You.
Now, he sounds just like Nancy Grace to me, or shall I say Nasty Grace. Here's another thing, too, that some of her followers don't want to talk about and own up to. How she besmirched the jurors because it didn't go in her favor. After she sat there and told all those lies. See, here's the thing. It's not hard to figure out. Tisa was telling lies from day one when she was at that courthouse. She was painting a false narrative, coming out here just making up stuff, saying stuff that wasn't even being said in the courtroom, wasn't even happening in the courtroom. Yeah, she was reading some of the reports, or she was taking notes, but she was also adding lies into the mix. Okay? And at the end of the day, when the verdict came out, and it didn't go the way she had told and promised everybody it was going to go. Diddy's cooked. Diddy's done. Oh, the defense is so scared. Oh, the defense is so, all that stuff that she said, now she's got egg on her face and looks like a whole damn fool. So what can she do now other than play the victim to spin the narrative? Everybody's going in on me. Oh, they're bullying me. Oh, these grown men out here bullying me. First of all, are you going to tell me, anybody in the chat, that a grown man, just because they're a man, they can't call somebody out of their BS because they're a woman? He didn't go up to her. She came up to him in the first place inside the building. Okay, everybody saw it. Okay, people have done videos about that, but her little subscribers who are vouching for her, they don't want to have that conversation. But let's let her cook.
Be a good little girl and servant that you are, and I'm gonna make you a star. You just go right ahead and tell them what they did to you, Tisa. They ran you up out of there, and there was nothing you could do except for duck and hide and tuck your tail. All you could do is tuck your tail, Tisa. Tisa had to tuck her tail. Tisa had to tuck her tail.
Because again, I'm sure they did their duty. But when all that chaos was happening, as I was being threatened and ushered out by armed security people, I thought, this is what the jury did. They sent a signal that it is okay to use violence. It's okay to drug people up.
It's okay to admit you just fucked up. You know what I'm saying? It's okay. It's okay to admit you fucked up. Because at the end of the day, y'all remember when she couldn't say nothing else, but at the end of the day, look, y'all, at the end of the day, y'all, at the end of the day, girl, shut the hell up.
It's okay to live a life of debauchery. It's okay to do whatever you want. Because guess what? If you work hard enough and you have enough money and enough delusional fans and you have ingrained yourself in culture enough.
No, I'm gonna be real. Who got some delusional fans is you. Because the fact that they believe they eating every word. Ratchet is on probation. He escaped, and oh my God, he is. Oh my God, let's call. Let's on. Like y'all, you believe that? You really truly believe that? You're fucking. What the fuck is wrong with you people? The fuck is going on here? What are we doing? What are we doing, gang? Salute to it says, remember, Nancy isn't allowed on national TV, cable. She made a guest unalive. That's why she is on YouTube. How she determined who Diddy supporters are? Psycho, Boyle, Rabbit, Fatal. What? Salute to Measured Man. Said she got kicked off of every platform. Look, I understand why just by looking at her face.
That you can do whatever.
Listen to Chris Echo says, okay, my opinion stinks and how you're coming at me stinks. I'm done deleting your channel. You can't delete my channel. All you can do is delete yourself, honey. Block yourself. That's what you can do. Or, just at the end of the day, the bottom line is you can block my channel. But here's the thing. Yeah, I'm coming at you the same way you come at me, honey. For every action, there's a reaction. You come on my channel being disrespectful, trying to call me out, but you can't call out somebody else who did something even worse than what I did as far as I'm concerned. She called me dusty. She called me male identifying woman. What even is that? Is she serious right about now? What's she trying to do? Say I look like a man? Honey, I birthed 2 sons into this world. How many has she? I'm sorry. She's the one as tall as a damn tree. Okay, as tall as an Amazon. So, but she's going to say, I'm a man. Girl, bye. At the end of the day, delete yourself. Okay?
You want. And 12 of your peers will look the other way. Again, this jury was shocking.
The jury wasn't shocking. You're just shocked because you were just fucking wrong about everything you said.
Tisa tells, when you say that Sean Combs supporters threatened you, what were they saying?
When you said Sean Combs supporters were threatening you, what did they say? What did they say? And she got the look on her face as if she's just so concerned, like they didn't just run this play together. She really got that look on her face as if she is just fucking concerned about Tisa Tells and the Diddy supporters.
Now, I want you all to pay attention to how Ratchet said they ran this play together. That's exactly what I told you all I suspected yesterday. I said it looks to me like they staged the whole thing. Okay, this was a whole setup in my opinion, because why the hell is she sitting in that car like she had to duck and hide? You just bragged about you were securityed up with your 2 armed security guards who escorted you out of the courthouse in the throes of conflict and chaos, and then took you outside and put you behind a barricade and stood there to guard you with guns. So you're going to leave the safety of that to go sit in a car where there's no safety except for a locked door and windows rolled up, girl, that anybody could bust out? Please make it all make sense. And then Nancy sitting there talking about, Leticia, as you're doing this interview, you're sitting in a car. You had to flee from the courthouse. Why? Girl, bye.
The Diddy supporters. What did they say? What did they say? I want what did they say?
They were saying, you effing B, we're going to kill you, you effing B. Apparently I work for the feds. You're a plant. You made this all up because of you. Again, they're not too smart. Because of you, that's how this case got started.
My God, nobody said any of this shit.
We're going to treat you worse than we treated Cassie. Cassie, what we do to you is going to be nothing that they had on Cassie. They were screaming. They were yelling. Some people were saying, apologize to Diddy.
And that's the title of the live, because I told her, are you going to apologize to Diddy and his family because you bullied them?
And that's how you know that she was absolutely talking about me and Ratchet, because she literally repeated words that came out of his mouth. She also said, oh, they were screaming so much their voices were cracking with anger. My voice was cracking because I've been losing my voice, and I told you all that. Okay, I'm still losing it. That's why I'm drinking this hot tea. But at the end of the day, the bottom line is, girl, you lied. You made it all up, okay? You're going to learn. Okay, there's going to be consequences for making up lies on people, specifically inflammatory statements and comments full of lies where you say that people threaten to kill you. Oh, and by the way, let me just say, when I told that person, Chris Eccles, to delete herself, I wasn't talking about take herself out. I'm talking about, she said she was going to delete my channel. So I was telling her to delete herself, meaning to exit stage left and then just block my channel and don't come back. Just to clarify, but let's continue.
She's switching the whole entire conversation. She's talking about me. That's the crazy part. You're just not saying my name, but you're directly talking about me. Said this is scary. Exactly. This is the type of woman that would let you crack and then just, but he R-worded me. When you block her number and just say, that bitch is a goofy, I'm cool on.
Okay, so Keisha says, did her security always escort her into the courthouse? No, ma'am. No, ma'am. Those people that were her escorts or that were her security that day, they had never been her escorts before. We never saw them securing her before. Before, she had this big black guy. Okay, and he always remained outside. And when she would come outside, he would be out there sitting down or standing up somewhere in her vicinity. And I don't think he was even armed, but he definitely never came into the courthouse. That day, she had 2 security guards who clearly looked like law enforcement or the feds. They had the little communication devices on their shirts. I showed you all that yesterday. When I showed you a screenshot of it, you know, that was I had zoomed in. So I showed you all that. So the question becomes, who got her those security officers? Because those were not private security. Private security, as I showed you all yesterday, if you missed that live, go back and watch. I showed you all the proof that private security cannot be inside of a courthouse with weapons. They could not be in there armed. The courthouse has their own armed marshals. They don't even allow you to bring cell phones in there as a part of the public. Okay? Now, if you're an attorney, however, or a reporter, perhaps, you can bring in, and not just regular reporters, you know, but some of the people that, I believe they have some reporters who are like on the 4th floor or somewhere. It's the 4th or the 8th floor. I think it's the 4th, like inner city press. Maybe he can carry his phone in. I'm not even sure about that. So don't quote me on it. But I was told that only attorneys can bring their phones into the courthouse. Okay, so we can even bring in phones, but you're going to say you had security that your boyfriend paid for, she said, and they had guns and were armed. Okay, but anyway, I'm going to skip ahead to this part where this guy who used to follow her said he's no longer supporting her because she's out here rage baiting. His name is Mr. Let Go.
Why is everyone dropping Starbucks for this protein coffee? Is it because their Black Friday sale with free?
This is mad. So anyway, listen, at the end of the day, right? At the end of the day, excuse me, can you please move him away, please? So at the end of the day, right? At the end of the day, right? At the end of the day, right? We will get.
What the hell? Look, that's 6 straight at the end of the day.
Move him away, please. So at the end of the day, right? At the end of the day, excuse me, can you please move him away, please? So at the end of the day, right? At the end of the day, right? At the end of the day, right? We will get. Listen, at the end of the day, we have done what we can. This shows that these people care more about, right? So listen, at the end of the day, these people are sitting here.
What the hell, y'all? They say, I see her now. Okay, yeah, they starting to wake up slowly.
In their struggle, mad. They want to bully women. They want to fight women. And there's a bunch of dusty, ugly, male-identified women.
She advocates for women, but is calling them ugly?
Also riding on them.
See, that's what she's talking about me. Dusty, ugly, male-identified women. Girl, sit down somewhere. Okay, sit down somewhere. But I'm the problem. I just called her out on lies.
At the end of the day, this is the world we live in. Meanwhile, the man that he rolled out for don't know him, won't shake his hand, but he wants at the end of the day. In any day, listen, at the end of the day, right? At the end of the day, it is what it talks about.
It is what it talks about. At the end of the day, it is what it talks about. What the fuck does that even mean?
Got it wrong. And the jury enabled this behavior. This is what the jury enabled. These are the people that support Diddy.
She said the jury enabled this behavior, and these are the people that support Diddy. First of all, I never said I supported Diddy. I still don't like Diddy. I said that plenty of times. But what I do support is justice being served. They did not prove the RICO, and I just told you all why, and I told you all before. So at the end of the day, the bottom line is I can support the verdict without supporting the man behind it, okay? I don't want anybody, if Diddy has done other things than that he's charged for and he's found guilty for it, that's fine. But they were trying to crucify Diddy based on that video of him beating the hell out of Cassie. And if they wanted to do that, then maybe they should have gone for domestic violence, because that's what that was all about. That was not a RICO, and it didn't prove a RICO. Okay, and let's not forget that I'm a criminal justice professor, so I like to see the law being played out the way it's supposed to. Okay, justice is supposed to be fair and equal, and everyone is allowed due process. Not just because we don't like people. I don't have to like Diddy to agree with the verdict. That's just a fact. But let's continue.
And a new way of healing is sweet.
What in the hell is going on? Let me go back. I think they got like a little ad going on there.
Families.
Crazy.
Let the world see early and often what the consequences of their actions are.
For those who don't know, this is content creator Tisa Tales, and she's been doing hundreds of videos on Diddy. And overall, she's an advocate for women, which is great. And in this particular video, she's outside of the courthouse right after the Diddy trial, venting about how the jury, which is comprised of 8 men, are ignorant, including the 4 women that are also on the jury. Think about this. You're a journalist, and most journalists are unbiased, but we're human, so it's okay to be a little biased. But right after a jury trial, and these jury members spent 3 to 4 months serving their community unpaid, just for a journalist who is getting paid by doing hundreds of videos following this Diddy story and the Diddy trial. So every month that goes by with this jury trial going on, she's making hundreds of thousands of dollars following this story. And when the jury finally deliberates and comes up with a decision, this woman calls them ignorant.
What do y'all think about that? She's called the jury ignorant. She's called us animals. She's called me the N-word. She's told someone that Diddy's not going to let them S his D. She has talked about people's channels. She's talked about people's appearance, calling people ugly, broke, dusty. She has shown her true colors when called out. When her back is against the wall, she has showed y'all the true definition of who she truly is.
And thank you. Hey, retired federal police officer Carol Banks. She says, yes, weapons, phones, etc. That's federal law. Okay, thank you. We have a federal officer, a retired federal officer in the chat. And let's not forget, I keep telling you guys that my uncle is a retired special agent for the GBI, also a retired case agent from Homeland Security and Homeland Security Investigations. Okay, and y'all don't think those men that were guarding her, that were armed, were the feds? And why would the feds be guarding a YouTuber? Oh, I have several questions. Maybe if they were being paid by the prosecution to say certain points and put out certain narratives, as I showed you all the proof that the government actually does use social media content creators for such things, please pay attention. And I don't know for a fact that that's what she was paid to do, but I absolutely think that's what she was paid to do. Okay, but let's continue. And here's another thing. After we called her out about that, then she tried to say that we're all having the same talking points because we were being paid by Diddy's team. Well, here's the thing. If we were being paid by Diddy's team, why the hell did I have to get up at 1 or 2 in the morning sometimes to go stand outside to make sure I got entrance into the courtroom? Don't you think that we would have been allowed to be on a list to get in there too, just like anybody who was paid by the prosecution allegedly would have been allowed to do? And then she lied and said that, and here's the thing, there's somebody who got the receipts. Okay, and they said they were going to do it on their live, and when they did, they said I can show the receipts on my channel. So I'll hopefully be showing you that video, because they said that she was completely lying when she told her people that she applied for press credentials. She didn't have any press credentials. We all applied for press credentials, many of us, including myself, before we left, because we said we were going to go back for the Luigi Mangione trial. Okay, so somebody had told me it's best to go ahead and apply for your press credentials now while you're already in New York. So the fact that she applied for them after the fact does not mean that she would have been allowed to just waltz into the courtroom like she already had press credentials and sit with the reporters and have a saved seat and all of that. Okay, but like I told you, somebody said that she had VIP with the prosecution, and I absolutely believe it. Now, though I can't prove it, what I can prove is that nobody threatened to kill her, at least not me and Ratchet. We never said we were going to kill her. We never said we wished that she would die. We never said any of that, because there's another thing too. I want you all to pay attention. There's another video where she went on Nancy Grace again and doubled down, talking about people who said they wanted her to die and they were going to kill her. I'm going to pull that video up while you all watch this.
What she stands on. They said she might be getting paid. Oops, she's saving. Oh, she definitely getting paid.
They're operating as servants of our community. Do you know how tireless it is to wake up every morning to sit in a jury box for probably 8 hours a day without getting paid? And the person that is getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars a month is outside calling you ignorant? So that's the first thing. That is very disrespectful. Not only to the process, not only to the courts, not only to these people, but to the craft of journalism. So that's the first issue I'm starting to see about Tisa. The thing I want y'all to understand about people overall, whether it's a romantic relationship or becoming a fan of somebody like Tisa Tales on social media, you don't know a person until something stupid happens.
And that's facts. Is that not fact? Drop the gems if he's dropping gems. Drop the caps if he's lying. You don't really know who a person is until something goes wrong. Does that make sense? Once you see someone with their back against the wall and everything just goes wrong, of course, everybody is perfect in a perfect setting. But when shit really hits the fan and it gets real, you start to find out who people truly are. You ever been around somebody every day and you just really ain't ever seen them in a situation, and when you finally get a chance to test them or you see them being tested, they show you exactly who they really are? That's who she is.
Right here, something stupid is happening. And now this is giving you an opportunity to see who this person really is. She repeatedly separated the jury and said the 8 men that are on the jury are the problem because they're men. And if they weren't men, Diddy would be doing life in prison. That is nuts, because even though some of us, including me, do not like Diddy, the RICO charges that Diddy faced were stupid. It makes no logical sense for a man that we all know and seen that is abusive, which is terrible, but he's not on trial for being abusive. They have him on trial like he's this mob boss. And cool, if he's this mob boss, let's get him. But the problem is there was no evidence of him being his mob boss. See, I'm looking at the tunnels. I'm looking at the young people. I'm looking at the GHB being in the baby oil. I'm looking at the 10 or 20 women that came forward saying Diddy did this and Diddy did that.
Exactly. See, this brother is on to something, and I'm rocking with him. I stand with you, my brother.
And next thing you know, she woke up and couldn't remember anything. Where are those women? Where's all the surveillance video?
Hey, but don't let nobody get no goddamn promo off of my shit, Maj. Y'all better clean the leash. Clean that shit up. Come on. Please. You know that shit ain't allowed over here.
The media painted this man out to be this huge mob boss that had this huge organization going on with tunnels and kids and spiked baby oil, satanic rituals. And for everything we've seen, he allegedly murked Kim Porter, Biggie, Tupac, Craig Mack, Heavy D, virtually everybody that worked at Uptown Records. But when it came down to the jury trial, the only people that they put on the stand was his ex-girlfriend, an assistant, and another ex-girlfriend. And they didn't even say anything. So with all that being said, to go back to Tisa Tales, there's no reason for him to be convicted of RICO. We didn't see nothing. So when you see all of the evidence come before you and realize there's really nothing to see here, why in the world is Tisa Tales acting a fool, going off on people, starting beefs with people? Do you know that multiple content creators, I mean a number of them, came out and said Tisa Tales had a stank attitude, she looked down on other people, she got so much preferential treatment where it looked eerie or strange, like she worked with somebody there instead of just being another content creator.
So why can her phone records not be subpoenaed and people find out who she truly was talking to? And can we speak about the elephant in the room since we want to talk about odors? Let's talk about the times you got up from that courtroom and all we could smell was bumblebee tuna. Let's start right there where there male identified women who were ignorant, and she said the men were ignorant and it was the men's fault that this jury happened, and it was the women who allowed the men to dictate the jury, and the women are male identified, and all the content creator women and the women in general who don't see her side of things. If you don't go with her narrative, you're a male identified woman, is what she says.
Yeah, that's exactly what she said. I want you all to pay attention, but some of her subscribers who are rocking with her, they're not calling her out on any of that. Okay. Keisha said, I'm sure she would have filed a report if that was the case. Exactly, beloved. If we had threatened her or anyone had threatened to take her out, yes, she absolutely would have filed a police report, taken out a warrant for terroristic threats. She would have had witnesses because all of it was out there in the public in the middle of the square, not to mention her armed security personnel. So you mean to tell me she didn't file anything? Of course not, because she's lying. It's all cap, okay? It's all cap. Now, El Hombre Negro says, so can't call a person not getting paid ignorant. Well, you can call somebody ignorant if you want to, whether they're getting paid or not, beloved. But the question is, why is she calling the jurors ignorant? Well, it's because they didn't rule the way she wanted them to. Okay, because they didn't vote the way she wanted them to. And at the end of the day, that's just so stupid for her to be upset with them. You see, they combed through the evidence. They did their due diligence as far as I'm concerned, because in fact, rather than making a hasty decision, they took a few days to come to their conclusion. They asked questions. They complained about juror number 25, who was not cooperating and following the judge's instructions. They also asked for the information to be brought in about Daniel Phillips, the transcripts on him, as well as Cassie. They were doing everything they could to make sure they came to the right decision. And if you ask me, they did come to the right decision, because they did prove, in my opinion, that Diddy was guilty of the Mann Act, even though we know it's rooted in racism, that it came about because of Jack Johnson, the boxer back in the day, who was dating white women. That's what they arrested him for and put him in prison. But the thing is, they did, by the standard that they needed to prove that, they did so. Because you had the male S workers testifying that they were paid. You had the text message from Diddy, from the person who owns Cowboys for Angels, who said that one of the workers didn't get his $600. He was shorted by $600. And Diddy said, well, he couldn't even perform. He should be glad he got anything. So that lets us know that he was supposed to do some sort of service performance or whatever. And then also that was backed up because Cassie basically said that, I think it was Cassie, or no, it was the Punisher who said that If he couldn't get it up, then he didn't make as much money. Okay, so that really corroborated that text message. And then also they showed the bank transactions and amounts that were taken off of Diddy's MasterCard. Okay, so they were able to prove that. So the jury absolutely got it right. They went by the evidence and testimony presented to them. For anyone to get upset because they simply followed the judge's own instructions and they asked questions. So let's not forget how they asked about, is it distribution if in fact you take illegal substances and you're at a freak off and you give them to somebody and they're doing them with you? It is not distribution. And the reason it isn't is because, like Jason Driscoll, one of Diddy's younger attorneys, said that distribution or the possession lied solely on the defendant, meaning that Diddy was always in possession of the illegal substances at the freak off. He never gave them to people because then that could have been distribution, whether he charged them or gave it to them for free. But what he did was they all used them together. Okay, they use these things together. So that's like if you're at my house, and I've said this all before, or I'm at your house and we're all passing a blunt, but it's my blunt. I bring it and I sit there and roll it and I'm smoking and I pass it to you all and let you all hit it. And then it gets back to me and it's mine. I'm still in possession of it. So for me to let you all hit it was not distribution. And if I brought more than just one blunt there and I had some more there, like a bag of it, okay, a bag of Mary Jane, then I let you all smoke some of it. When I leave, if y'all didn't buy it from me, I'm taking it with me. So it's still in my possession. So that is not distribution. Okay, that's why they couldn't get him on that either. But with that being said, the jury absolutely did their due diligence. They asked the right questions. They followed the judge's instructions to the T, complained about the one juror who didn't want to do that, and they got it right. They did not prove the RICO. They didn't prove the S trafficking. And Tisa can get as mad as she wants. If you listen to what she's saying the jury, they've made it okay for people to be violent and live a life of debauchery and this, that, and the third. And she's just talking about violence and all that. But you're going to hear the rest of what she says in a minute. But when you're listening to her, please pay attention, because all that she's arguing about and ranting and raving about is about the domestic violence, okay, which he was not charged with. So she wanted him to be found guilty, but only by the violence. That is not what he was on trial for. So that's how obtuse that she is.
Evidence, logic, and be objective about what's in front of them. They can't seem to do this. And I want to give y'all something to think about because I got some notes. Tisa Tales, if you know of her, is standing up for women who have been abused. That's cool. That's one thing. But remember, he's not on trial for that. So because he's not on trial for that, you have to take that in consideration before you start crashing out on people and calling the jury members ignorant. Think about this. There's something called vicarious trauma. Trauma experienced by those who witness or learn about another person's trauma can literally suffer vicariously through the
Someone said, don't forget she called the male jurors hoes. Exactly. That lady is crazy. Musty
other
ass.
people.
Musty ass.
And start adopting their trauma and internalizing it as if it was us. And next thing you know, we're angry like it happened to us. And because of these adopted, internalized feelings, you can turn around and end up being vindictive for no apparent reason. And
E-Trade Travel said Ratchet will be facing his own sentencing shortly. Then maybe we can all stop talking about Tisa. Well, you know, beloved, I don't know about Ratchet facing any sentence, and he said that was all cap. But at the end of the day, we'll talk about Tisa as long as Tisa keeps lying. Okay, that's what we're going to do. If Tisa's still lying 10 days from now, I'll still be talking about her 10 days from now. Okay, with that all being said, yeah, I'm not going to stop talking until she stops talking. See, this all could have been buried and down the hatch last week if she just shut her mouth after it was all over and done with. And she said what she had to say, and we said what we had to say. But no, she went on Nancy Grace and told lies. And I'm going to pull up another video from when she was, again, telling the same lies. Now, if you don't have a problem with that, E-Trade Travel, then don't sit here and have a problem with what we said and the fact that I'm calling her out, because she just did a video, okay, the other day.
this is extremely dangerous, especially when you're a journalist and you have a huge platform. You now can use this new internalized anger you have for Diddy to literally weaponize your female audience against men.
Look what it got you. Y'all start sending these mofos to jail. Somebody touch you, say something wrong to your work, Go to HR, document it, get a lawyer up, and sue them for some money. That's all they're going to put you, junior you down to. Oh, you just a gold digger. You just want money. You MFing right. Give it. You MFing right. That's all y'all care about. Somebody literally junior you down to. Somebody touch you, say something wrong to you.
Realize anger you have.
Look at that again. Listen to that again, y'all. Listen to that.
Against men.
Look what it got you. Y'all start sending these mofos to jail. Somebody touch you, say something wrong to you at work. Go to HR, document it, get a lawyer up, and sue them for some money. That's all they're going to put you, junior you down to. Oh, you just a gold digger. You just want money. You MFing right. Give it. You MFing right. That's all y'all care about. Somebody literally does something. The police, you want to make a statement? I 100% do. When they call you crying and begging and pleading, when their mamas call you crying and begging and pleading, you're going to ruin his life. And the jury showed us, stop showing these people empathy. Stop showing them compassion. Stop showing them humanity. Stop being the MF. Playtime is.
This is who y'all follow?
She sounds like a whole crazed Karen. That's who she sounds like. And some of these ignorant men caping for her, she'd be saying the same thing about them. Okay? At the end of the day. Please pay attention.
This is not truly. What? They said Tisa Tilapia. Oh my God. That is the comment of the fucking.
Ruin their families.
Crazy.
Let the world see early and often what the consequences of their actions are.
So what it looks like to me, instead of this woman, Tisa Tales, just being a journalist and sharing the facts with her audience, she's in some type of way, because I don't know her, bleeding on her audience. Women tend to interpret information instead of just hearing it. And next thing you know, they mix in their own life stories and their own traumas. And next thing you know, she mixes up some type of trauma gumbo that's mixed with her experiences and somebody else's experiences. And now that one man that did something to somebody else has to pay for everybody's indiscretions.
Boy, this dude is on the money, and I really love this video.
And next thing you know,
salute to Binky and everybody else dropping them super chats. T.O., everybody salute.
Diddy gets off on the RICO charges, and instead of looking at the evidence, she wants to bleed all over her audience, to enrage her audience, which is actually called rage baiting. So instead of just being a journalist and reporting the news, she goes out here, bleeds all over her audience, and rage baits them, and decides to weaponize her audience against men. Weaponizing your audience against men is not journalism at all. So for the record, I'm all for the Tisa train. I no longer support her because, like I said in the beginning, you never know a person until something stupid happens. In life, all you have to do is sit back, don't be too presumptuous, and just observe the people that you're a fan of, you're in a relationship with, you're co-workers with. And once a little bit of pressure is applied to that person that you're observing, you'll then see who this person actually is. But I made this video with love and objectivity. I didn't call her any names. I didn't say anything crazy about her. All I want y'all to do as an audience is to spend more time observing the people that you look up to, because in time, you'll literally see who they truly are. But let me know what y'all think in the comments. Hey.
Now I want you all to pay attention, because also that gentleman did say on his video that he can no longer support her. Okay? He said he can no longer support her. So she's losing subscribers because of her own nefariousness. All right? Because of all her lies that she has continued to tell and the false narratives that she has tried to paint. So with that all being said, Renee said, this man's right. I was looking for those things as well. There was nothing in the oil, but I can't walk down the baby oil out of the store the same anymore, though. Okay, and that's another thing. She was one of the main people saying that there was rugs with a D in the baby oil. Okay, there was nothing in the oil. They never mentioned that once in court. Okay, there was nothing in the oil. And didn't I tell you all that that sounded like something somebody just made up? But let's go to this video where she's on Nancy Grace again. Nancy Grace posted this where she's still telling lies about, this time she's saying these men trying to make herself such a victim. The only reason she's trying to play the victim, like I said, is simply because she things didn't turn out the way she wanted. She had egg on her face. And she just wanted to change the narrative. Okay? That's it.
fully expecting to go home. They had gotten security for Star Island because they expected him to walk out that night. Everybody was on. And when you saw the way his whole body slumped.
Farm in the wild, raise animals and harvest crops, make food for yourself and for sale.
The way he looked like tears were rolling down his face, all because Judge Aaron finally put a stop.
There is more lies. There was no tears rolling down his face. I want you all to pay attention. Just like she lied and said his sons and family came outside looking for her, yelling, "Where's Tisa? Where's Tisa?" She literally is just making up malicious lies at this point. Now, I don't like Diddy either, but I'm not going to sit up here and act like that man was crying when he wasn't. I'm not going to sit up here and act like his family came looking for somebody when they didn't. This is all crazy, acting like people threatened to kill her. Clearly playing a whole Karen. This is what Karens do.
To this nonsense. And again, I want to thank Judge Aaron because it had a chilling effect. Everybody was worried about me last night, but you know what? I stood tall because I realized they wanted what they did to Rob. They want us afraid to come out.
Now she's trying to paint herself as a hero. Everybody was afraid about my safety last night. Girl, nobody was worried about your safety because nobody believed, anybody with sense didn't believe that you were actually threatened. Okay, and what about your armed security? Why would anyone need to worry or fear when you said you're securityed up? Okay, y'all hear this? Just lies on top of lies, but I'm not supposed to say anything. Nobody's supposed to call her out on this BS and these blatant shenanigans. Okay, I find it all interesting, but let's continue.
They want us to hide in the shadow like roaches the way they should be hiding in the shadows. They want us to be bowed and ashamed and hide away so they can literally let their deranged king run rapid. Kudos for Rob for holding his ground, and kudos for Judge Aaron for finally popping that bubble and for Diddy to see reality.
She also further lied and said that the judge was going to delay the sentencing or something. She said, I don't want to misquote, but she was basically saying that the judge was postponing something because for her safety. And then also did a video talking about how us yelling at her and calling her out on her lies, basically saying that that's going to get Diddy more time. That's going to make the judge give him like 20 years. Girl, how could the judge sentence Diddy based off of what we said? That has nothing to do with it. Do you all understand how she's such a dangerous, pathological liar? Okay, it is her lies that possibly, in my opinion, had something to do with juror number 6 being ousted. Because as Brian Steele said to the judge in the court, that y'all didn't have a problem with him, because if you did, you could have done something and addressed it during the voir dire process. Okay, but the fact that the prosecution didn't say anything then led him to believe that it was because they were upset about, his facial expressions. Because who was on there live talking about the jurors' facial expressions besides Miss Tisa Tales? Okay, please pay attention. And she's the one who doxed 2 of the victims, but she's an advocate for them. Well, if she's an advocate for them, why did she dox Mia and Jane? And I showed you all the video of her doing it yesterday. But she didn't get banned from the court, and now we all should know why.
You might have got away with the worst of it, but the feds still caught you in their crossheads. And in that moment, we saw like he was slumped, head bowed, looking like tears were rolling down his face because he thought, he knew, to see reality finally come crashing in. That was the only justice we got in that day, but it was a lot of justice, and it was well-deserved justice.
What did you just say about self-defense?
Yes. It makes me so mad to think about it. Mark Agnifilo had the nerve to suggest that what Diddy did that night with Jane when he forced drugs down her throat and made her perform a freak-off with fresh bruises and swelling covered up with makeup. Mark Agnifilo said there's evidence to suggest that was some type of self-defense, that my client was provoked.
Wait a minute. Lynn Shaw joining me from Lynn's.
Okay, I'm going to stop right there because I've had about enough of the lies and shenanigans. Okay, let me just let y'all pay attention to this because, honey, I absolutely cannot with this girl. Okay, first of all, on that night, now I don't recall Mark Agnifilo saying it was self-defense. Maybe he did. But what I do recall is Jane Doe saying that Diddy bent over to tie his shoe and she pushed him she shoved his head into a marble counter and then started throwing candles and something at him. That's what she said. Okay. At the end of the day, that doesn't excuse him putting hands on her, but she did say that she struck the first blow because she was mad about these other women. And that just made me feel like she's mentally unstable herself, or potentially just violent and out of control, just like Diddy. Okay, it seems like Diddy made his match because she initially invited him over for a romantic dinner with candles and all of that. Then out of the blue gets upset when she starts thinking about him in Young Miami and the fact that she's not allowed to post stuff about him on social media and all of this. I then shoved his head into a marble counter. Now, this is after she saw the video of him beating the hell out of Cassie. So what do you think she thought he was going to do? That was just crazy for me. There's no way I would have even been dating him after I saw him beat the hell out of Cassie, let alone going to put my hands on him knowing that what I might get. Okay? That night, they said Diddy kicked down multiple doors to get to her after she ran, honey. Okay? It was all crazy. It is all crazy. So Lexington says that man act should be abolished. Also, the RICO shouldn't be allowed in court just because a woman couldn't get her way. Exactly, beloved. And listen, I'm glad you said that because here's the thing. That's why some of us were happy that Diddy didn't get convicted of the RICO. Not that we were Diddy supporters, as Tisa wants to call us. I think Ratchet may be a Diddy supporter, but I'm not. I told you all a myriad of times I don't like Diddy. But the bottom line is I was glad that didn't fly because they were trying to set a precedent. And next thing you know, they will be locking up multiple black men under the guise of a RICO simply because they flew somebody out. They'd say it was ass trafficking. Okay, didn't Tyrese say that he met his girlfriend on Instagram? Okay, she was an Instagram model, as they call it. So you mean to tell me this is worthy of a RICO? This is trafficking? See, that's what they were trying to do. They were trying to get this whole thing rolling. So I feel like that's why it was a celebration when they didn't make the RICO. Now, what Diddy got convicted of, well, they had all the evidence to prove and substantiate that, in my opinion. But this other stuff was all crazy and was very much so far reaching. And I told you all before that they overcharged him. Okay, Measure Man says, did you see the reporter just read Tisa for filth about the application and lying, etc.? He said, why is everything about her? They are sick of her. You must be talking about my friend, Dennis Bryan. Okay, that's the one who said he was going to do the video that I was just telling you all about. And he said that I could use it. That is who I'm talking about because he's actually a reporter. He actually has press credentials and he could even get in sometimes. But Tisa was allowed to get in with no press credentials, but we're not supposed to find that suspicious. Okay, please pay attention. Thank you, Measure Man, for that tidbit of information, beloved. And also thank you for your contribution to the channel. Peace, love, and blessings. Okay, Nancy Grace needs to sit down somewhere because as far as I'm concerned, she is the one perpetuating this foolishness with Tisa and these lies about people trying to threaten to harm her and all of that. And I hope that she gets exactly what she deserves, which is sued. Okay, I hope she gets sued. Now I'm going to go to a couple more videos and then I'm going to be out of here because you guys remember that we're going to be back on live at 7 o'clock this evening with a panel discussion. Okay, and hopefully I'll have my legal expert friend Gavin Richard on here as well if he's done with court for the day. Okay, so let's get into it because this is from News Nation. Likes up, everyone, please. Don't forget to like and share. Thank you in advance.
No bail for Sean Combs. He's too dangerous. That's the view from the judge. Does that mean the judge will feel the same when it comes to sentencing? I had a chance to speak with Harvey Levin today of TMZ. He's been doing this incredible job on TMZ Presents United States versus Sean Combs inside the Diddy trial. And here is our conversation about what happened in Manhattan today. It's incredible. It doesn't matter who you ask. There seems to be shock one way or the other on Diddy about the verdict and then, of course, the bail.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think a lot of people, myself included, misread the jury with what happened here. I think that we all thought it was bad news for Diddy just based on the way things laid out. It was the opposite. It was really the opposite. And, you know, when I heard about the one juror an hour in that the jury is complaining he's not following the instructions, I thought that had to be a holdout for not guilty. But it seems like it's the exact opposite, that this jury was unconvinced from the jump that the prosecution proved its case on the major issues. Ashley, I got to tell you, what Diddy was convicted of is equivalent to somebody in the San Fernando Valley transporting a sex worker to Beverly Hills to do a three-way. And that would end up, if even prosecuted at all, as a misdemeanor case in the city attorney's office. That's what the prosecutors ended up with here. This is a spectacular loss for the prosecution.
But it's also shocking because one of the questions from this jury was, if someone asks for the drugs and the defendant gives the drugs, is that distribution? Which is clearly yes. Well, but that didn't seem to be enough.
It didn't seem to be enough. And look, you know, we've talked about jury nullification. I don't know that that's the case. To me, this case in many respects was square peg round hole, that you try and somehow create a racketeering enterprise around this crazy criminal, nutty, jealous boyfriend who's committing all these random acts. I mean, you know, what I've always talked about is this wasn't organized crime, it was disorganized crime. And it was all this scattered.
Okay, Rev Guerrero says, but did they really lock down and bar up the court? Well, they did that, but she said the courtroom. She said they locked down the courtroom, but they did actually lock down the courtyard. That was after that lady with the blue wig. I don't know if you guys saw that when the whole thing about the baby oil was going on, and the lady with the blue wig was just doing too much and took off her top and all of that. So at that point, they did lock it down, okay? But it had nothing to do with Tisa. That's just another lie that she told to paint a certain narrative, like they were so concerned about her safety. But again, she had 2 armed guards, but they were worried about her safety. So she's just a liar who lies. The courtyard got locked down because that lady out there with that blue wig, when her mom was out there, whatever, that lady basically took off her top and was just doing a whole bunch. So they basically locked it down at that point, put up the barricades or whatever. But let's continue.
Stuff. And I think when the jury heard they're trying to show racketeering, that they looked at everything with a jaundiced eye. And the Mann Act, I mean, you can't get around it, that there was clear proof of the Mann Act. But even with, you know, all of the sex trafficking charges, they're looking at freak-off videos where they're seeing Cassie engaged in these sex acts, and they're trying to figure out where is the lack of consent. And I understand she testified, but they've got these powerful images, and he is an abuser, he is criminal the way he's acted, but they had to look at this case, and I think especially because of racketeering, it just kind of felt like they were out to get him.
Well, the racketeering, I'm just sort of gobsmacked because you saw the distribution question, so they clearly thought that he was distributing drugs, and it just mattered if somebody asked for them first. So once they got that instruction, they should have been clear on drug distribution. They saw assault. They saw and heard from multiple witnesses bribery. They saw and heard from 2 witnesses that were there that Cassie got smacked around in the middle of a freak-off and was told to come out and finish strong, and her escort lost his erection. He was so upset about it. There's so much evidence that would have supported multiple predicate acts for racketeering, but they just couldn't come up with it.
Well,
that's where I'm just sort of like...
But what if I'm right on this, that...
The luxury bucket list says, Tisa is similar to Nancy. I can see why she has taken to her. Nancy gets very biased when she feels someone is guilty. Tisa connecting with Nancy is great for her, in my opinion. It absolutely is. Her connecting with ABC and Nancy Grace is great for her because she's just like them, because they're fake news, okay? Just like Trump said. That's one thing I have to agree with him on. fake news. They paint certain narratives and they put out certain things that, really don't often ring true, in my opinion. And she is very much so like them. So absolutely, I think they made an excellent choice having her on the burden of proof and having her on Nancy Grace. Okay, best of luck to her in her future endeavors. But in the meantime, she needs to stop telling all them darn lies on ScrewTube, because she's going to get sued. Okay, she might have a lawsuit right now incoming. Please pay attention.
Look, I mean, Ashley, you have heard over the years about how difficult it is for prosecutors sometimes because of television shows like CSI, that they just get it perfect, and then all of a sudden it's imperfect in real life, right, and it magnifies for the jury. What I would offer you is Tony Soprano, and that's the image that people have of a racketeer. John Gotti is the image of what people have as a racketeer. And then you look at Diddy and you say, that's why I'm saying square peg round hole, that they're looking at Diddy saying, really?
They need new words.
Well, it's the law. The law is racketeering.
They need a rewrite. They need a new law that deals with commercial and or elite sex trafficking, because we're seeing elite sex traffickers all the time. Peter Nygaard's an elite sex trafficker. Epstein, elite sex trafficker. And the allegation was that Diddy is an elite sex trafficker too. They're not making money, but they're getting their jollies, which is the value.
But then it's a sex trafficking.
Now she's lying, because Peter Nygaard and Jeffrey Epstein were getting money. What is she talking about? Jeffrey Epstein had high-end clients that were paying him for what he was doing, and so did Nygaard, okay? She can't compare Diddy to them for the simple fact they were absolutely, okay? Are we supposed to think, and I want you all to really think about this, you mean to tell me that you all, once in the chat, and then Winter says, Tisa said Diddy trafficked his own children. She's crazy. Did she say that? I didn't even know she said that. If true, that is crazy if she actually said it. But here's the thing. The bottom line is Peter Nygaard and Jeffrey Epstein were absolutely doing, trafficking and being paid to do so. And are we supposed to think that Cassie and Jane Doe are the equivalent of a Centoya Brown, who was actually trafficked and then ended up in prison after she deleted the person who was her trafficker? Okay, are we supposed to compare those two women to them? I don't think so. That is not the same. Okay, Ashley, I usually like her talking points and agree with her on so many things, but on this, I have to respectfully disagree. I don't see it the same way. Diddy was not doing what Jeffrey Epstein and Peter Nygaard were doing, but I will say that I'm glad that she brought up Peter Nygaard, because I thought that I was the only one who even noticed that this man was just doing the most, okay? And definitely he's very much so a comparison or a replica of Jeffrey Epstein, in my opinion. He had his own island, supposedly. He was going to different countries and doing all this stuff. At the end of the day, I'm just glad he finally got caught. But look how long it took them to catch him. Because do you all think he just started doing this like a year or two ago? There's no telling how long he was doing it. And look at him, how old he is now. Okay, so Diddy definitely was not doing the same thing they were doing, in my opinion. At least it wasn't proven in court.
Case. How is it a racketeering case? In other words, look at Bad Boy
Add up all the rest.
Well, no, but Ashley, you look at Bad Boy Records and you say, this is a criminal enterprise where he's using it to further this criminal venture. This is not selling drugs. This is not doing hits on people. I mean, that's what people think of with racketeering.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our News Nation.
I'm going to play one more video and then I'm out of here because I have to be back at 7. But let me say this too. Another thing is, there is a lot of discrepancies in the way these laws are put out there. Like I said, there are people that are doing the same thing as that they accuse Diddy of, but those people have not faced any consequences, nor will they ever, okay? Nor will they ever. And this whole thing about Tyler Perry that's coming out, we got to talk about that on another live. Okay, so here is Mark Garagos, Tina Garagos' father, Diddy's one of Diddy's defense attorneys. And Garagos is also a good friend of Diddy's. He's known him for years and was also supposedly, what's the word I want to use? Counseling the defense, or advising the defense, shall I say. Okay, now he's on here as well. So let's get into it. He's represented Diddy in the past.
When you learned yesterday that they were locked on RICO, but had decided on 4 of the other charges, what did that mean to you?
Until I read the note, I wasn't feeling great. Once I read the note, I'll show you how deep in the weeds and reading the tea leaves. When I saw jurors, plural, opinions, plural, and unpersuadable, that convinced me that they had found him not guilty on the more serious charges. And why do I say that? Because I figured at that point, who, if they had voted guilty across the other 4, was going to fight for the RICO?
Okay, a good question. Ben Moss says selective outrage. Do you think they would be so upset if it was Young Miami instead of Cassie? Absolutely not, because Young Miami is a black woman with dark skin. Okay, so she's not given light skin privilege or pretty privilege, even though I think she's a beautiful young lady. They would not be feeling sorry for her. They'd be saying she's a hoe. They'd be saying she made these choices. They'd be saying all the same things that they won't dare say about Cassie. Okay, that's what they wouldn't be doing. And even when you look at Miss Tisa Tales, didn't she say disparaging things about Young Miami before? I absolutely think that she did, if my memory serves me correct. Now, I could be mistaken, but it's just interesting that she has so much vitriol against Diddy for Cassie, but you know, really nothing to say about Young Miami. And the bottom line is, if Young Miami had been the one in that situation who had been called to testify, I absolutely, or the one that was getting beat, I absolutely don't think there would have been as much outrage. Nowhere near. That's just my opinion.
Just didn't think that made any sense. And sure enough, that's exactly the way it turned out. Unpersuadable yesterday. After about an hour and a half this morning, they came back, and I will tell you, as a helicopter parent watching it, and you just saw Tenny, their force of nature that she is, I couldn't be happier for her, for my granddaughter that is in her womb, for the client for his daughters. You know, I met with him. I won't talk about what we said, but we both shed a tear or two over our respective daughters today.
Tough spot for his daughters, that's for sure. Not because of what their criminality is, but because of what the underlying behavior was. You and I have talked on TV and off. And
let me just say this. That picture right here of Diddy on the floor, they used that picture and put the caption over it, Diddy denied bail, to make it seem like he just fell out on the floor, you know, crying because he didn't get bail. That's what he did when the verdict was read, that he was not guilty on count 1. Okay. Now, with that all being said, Gwendolyn says, Queen, like you revealed to us how influencers are paid and used to influence masses. Yes, absolutely. Okay, absolutely, beloved. I showed you all that yesterday. And if you all missed that very insightful video yesterday where I brought the receipts as per usual, please go back and watch. Okay, Renee says, I stumbled across this channel. I watch many. This is very good coverage and I see facts. Thank you. Well, thank you, beloved. I appreciate your kind words. And make sure you tune in at 7 o'clock because we're going to be having a very interesting panel discussion with different people giving their views and perspectives on all of this stuff that transpired during the trial. I mean, just from the crazy stuff that happened in line to, you know, people fighting and just the infighting about the line and all of the stuff, the lies that were being told, the narratives being painted, as well as their thoughts and views and opinions on how they thought everything was going to go, whether they were for Diddy, against Diddy, or whatever. We may have contrary views and opinions, but I think it's going to be a good dialogue. So make sure you all tune back in.
TV about what bothered us about this case, regardless of your daughter's involvement. It's that it seemed like they were trying to, they wanted him. They wanted him. That search proved that they wanted him and that they were trying to build a case around him because they didn't like the video that none of us likes. And no one should like that video, and he shouldn't have lied about it. But none of that is what a federal case is supposed to be about. Do you believe that this jury was making that statement, and you think we'll hear that from them when they speak?
Well, I won't even venture to predict what a juror will say. I will say that clearly the jurors had seen through this. You know, one of the interesting things as I was sitting here in New York is presentation by the prosecution, and I've been excoriated for my labeling of the prosecutors in this case, and I don't want to go there, but there was some pearl clutching here, and it seemed like the kind of the morality police to me. It just made no sense. Then this weekend, I was walking from the office to where I stay, which is about 1.5 miles, but it took me about 3 or 4 hours because of the Pride Parade. And one of the great things about New York City on the Pride Sunday is this kind of celebratory Mardi Gras festival-like atmosphere. And it struck me then, as I was in that teeming mass of humanity for 3 or 4 hours, is this is probably the last place on earth, maybe LA is number 2, where you're going to start talking about what people are doing in their hotel rooms and consensually and having threesomes and things of that nature. It just seemed to me to be kind of tone deaf, if you will, and really kind of a characterization of and a misuse of resources federally. And to the defense of the current administration here in the Southern District, this case was brought under a previous U.S. attorney, not the current U.S. attorney. He got the cards he was dealt, and so I get that, and so from the client's standpoint, doesn't really matter, but give the current administration credit. They called it out early on when they were talking about Mayor Adams, and they specifically mentioned this case as well as being kind of an ill-conceived, ill-brought case.
So the Mann Act is real, as modified in 1986, and there is a healthy sentence that can be nailed for each count. What is your concern about what the sentence will be for basically him paying prostitutes to do what they had chosen to do?
Well, look, the Mann Act, for those who don't remember, I think most famously was brought against the heavyweight boxer
Hold on, let me let you all hear this. Miss Rose Benson said, I'm unfollowing you, Miss. Shame on you for dissing Tisa. Well, that's fine. Exit stage left. You think I'm going to cry? I'm absolutely not, okay? At the end of the day, it's a problem for me dissing her, but not her dissing people. Okay, please make it all make sense. Like I said, pretty privilege and light-skinned privilege. Y'all continue to prove my point. Okay, Tisa can sit there and lie and say that people threatened to kill her when we absolutely did not. Okay, all y'all are doing is just making me itch more, making my left hand itch even just a little bit more to sue her behind, okay? All right, and I'm going to put these on the screen so that I can prove that this right here, her lying and saying that we threatened to kill her and all that stuff, absolutely is part of the, us losing subscribers and cash, okay? So thank you for that, but let's continue.
African-American who had a white girlfriend over 100 years ago.
Johnson.
For a white woman. Then famously against Chuck Berry and most recently against R. Kelly. But at least with R. Kelly, the allegation was minors.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download.
All right. Okay, so there you all heard it. There you are. All hell no said bye, Rose. Okay. Angel said, yes, she talked about Young Miami for not speaking out against Diddy. Exactly. And how does she even know if Diddy did any of those things to Young Miami? You know what I'm saying? And then she lied on Gina and said that Diddy paid Gina off. Gina needs to sue her too. Okay. She doesn't know if that girl was paid off. All right. Like I told you guys before, I know somebody who knows Gina personally, and that is not what they said as to why she didn't testify. And she also allegedly said that Diddy paid off the jurors and they needed to get rid of them and put the alternates on the bench. Okay? That's what I was told. Now, with that being said, she said a whole lot. And she just says whatever she wants to say. But it's interesting how some people like Rose want to get mad at me because I'm calling her out on her BS. Well, honey, you can stay mad at the end of the day because I said what I said. And I stand 10 toes down on it. Okay? Please pay attention. Okay? Please pay attention. Okay? It's all so nefarious. With that all being said, hold on. Measured Man sent me a donation. A Measured Man says, in honor of her unfollowing. Okay, thank you, beloved. I appreciate you. Okay, you see there, Rose? You just helped me make $50. So thanks for unfollowing, honey. You can go back over there to Tisa Tells Lies and keep listening, honey, and keep being mad and butthurt and bit out of shape because people are calling her out. Okay, that's what you can continue to do. Now, I want you all to pay attention to something. The people that are defending her BS and that are mad at the rest of us for calling her out with truth and facts, y'all don't think they know that she's really a liar who lies? Of course they do. You all remember that someone even said to me yesterday, one of her subscribers said, well, she said that she has ADHD. You don't think that's what made her lie? No, I don't. ADHD does not make you a pathological liar. Being someone who's malicious and nefarious and someone who's a narcissist does. Okay? That's what I think. All right. So, Measure Man, thank you so much for your contribution, beloved. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. Now, you all don't forget to tune back in at 7. And here again is the link for anybody who missed it. All right. And I hope to see you all there. Until next time, beloveds, each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember, beloveds, to keep the Most High first in your lives. Peace.
Gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you're done. They show no love for the queen. Why you hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans? I got dreams like King Luther, shed blood like Kunta. You ain't helping my people, I ain't got nothing to say to ya. I want all the smoke like hookah. Talking reparations, America won't be great until they give us compensation. I'm like, I'm the hottest right now. That's See right. A bunch of lames out here trying to jock on my style. They be doing too much. I'm the queen, it's too easy. It's like they all at Popeyes, how they be talking so greasy. I just sit back and laugh while these haters get madder. So nefarious how they don't want my pockets with cheddar. I tell them they can do better. These snakes in the grass can leave a bite on your ass, cause y'all be trusting too fast. I got my foot on the gas, other one on they necks. Dropping receipts on haters, you better show some respect. I'm never facing regrets, we only facing the threats. Running through every challenge like a relay, break no sweat. It's a cold game, so I got that blanket with me. Now that my people awaken, ain't no going to sleep. I do not play by my piece, this time I'm playing for keeps. You talking slick, but when I see you like them ends, we gon' meet. And I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen. Why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen. Why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got